If you're following along on Advanced Knife Bros Fixed Blade Backyard Adventure Extravaganza, this review for the Buck 119 marks my 6th fixed blade review in a row, and should finally get people to stop thinking I have a thing against bucks, but start thinking I have something against folding knives. Now, I don't have anything against bucks. They make perfectly fine knives that I like that your grandpa liked. The 119 is a design that's pretty much stayed the same since 1942, with a few changes. The major ones happened about a decade after the introduction, when they realized their mistake and improved the design by adding a blood groove and making it bigger. Two of the most important things you can do to a fixed blade knife. Buck is always a leader who very early on anticipated the tactical revolution in the latter part of the century. Now, although I'm kind of disappointed no revision ever addressed the lack of a sawback. And while we think about sawbacks, not as much as Gil Hibben thinks about them, but let's still think about them a good amount. While we do that, take a look at the dimensions, like the overall length and weight. Okay, we can stop thinking about sawbacks now, and move on to other ways we might improve the 119. What are some of your suggestions? Blade sizing, cutting edge. Is a cutting edge just over 5 inches even tactical nowadays? I think the Natchez buoy ruins small buoys for me. Handle size and grip area. The handle sure as shit can be improved with some Strider or Medford style jimping. How do you even grip it without the round, squared jimping, huh? Spine thickness, handle thickness. And that blade stock, if they man it up, they could also man up that weight too. It's like it's barely even there, boy. Tallnesses. That blade sure as hell ain't tall enough. Get a nice big recurve or a belly on there, kind of like a Tom Brown tracker. Now, I probably started the wrong way in my buoy odyssey. The Natchez, the dog's head utility, and now the 119. You go from smaller to larger, instead of the other way around. The 119 has a hunting-friendly clip-point blade made from 420 HC steel and a hollow grind. Man, a good old-fashioned hollow grind, how about that? It comes pretty sharp out of the box. Clip points are a good game knife because of the piercing tip with the swedge. The swedge, while not sharpened, comes to an acute peak, meaning it can enter the body cavity of a squirrel you killed much easier. The rule of thumb is, depending on the type of game you hunt, your knife needs to be approximately 2/3 the size of an animal. It's an old hunting rule, look it up. Wouldn't want to miss that piss sack. The satin finished blade is pretty good at cutting up onions and green peppers for tofu soft taco night, a very specific task Hoyt Buck had in mind when designing fixed blade knives in the early 20th century. The handle is a composite or plastic material called, we're going to try this one here, phenolic. How about phenolic? It covers a full-length tang that isn't full height. Google 119 tang and you'll see pictures. Don't want to be stealing anyone's pictures. The handle, while slick, is bulbous, and the bolster, finger grooves, and crossguard try to make up for a lack of traction on the smooth, finished handle. I don't hunt no more, and I don't often venture outside when it's raining, but it might be taken into consideration that if you hunt, and hunt while wet, or get wet while hunting, or any combinations of various moistures, viscous fluids, coming in contact with your person, micarta G10 or even rubberized handles might be a better alternative. And an old hunter's trick is to put a condom over your handle, and it gives you a little more grip in the wet. Or just get yourself a good set of gloves. They could even be fingerless gloves, and the Buck 119 is just fine. Wouldn't be a 119 if it didn't have that slick handle, okay, jerk? Maybe you don't like traditional knives. The sheath. The sheath is leather. It's thick and has a plastic insert to maintain its shape and protect the interior of the sheath from cuts, and probably also discourage moisture from touching your blade. There's even a drain hole at the bottom of the sheath, almost like Buck doesn't want your knife to rust. You got a wraparound snap and the retention system that keeps it inside the sheath when closed. You see that there? Although the nature of the wraparound snap does make it slightly harder to draw after you unsnap it, which might actually not be a bug but a feature because it could keep the knife inside the sheath if you forgot to snap it. One negative though is it rides a little high. A dangler ring may make it a little bit better for my tastes. The butt of the handle rides about 2 3/4 inches over the top of your belt. Butts and dangler rings, right? Comparisons, the 119. The two main negatives for me are the lack of a lower riding sheath and the handle is a bit slick. There are arguments to what a real useful fixed blade size is. Is 6 inches too big? Probably. In my experience and in reading, there's a lot to suggest hunters prefer blade lengths up to 4 inches and less. What is a 6-inch blade good for? Bushcraft? I don't know, you tell me. Feather sticks? When I camp or when I hike for food prep and just general campsite tasks, I generally deal with 3 to 4 inch folding knives. I'd be curious for those who are active hunters, what's your favorite blade for hunting? What's the size you like? Now the dog said utility. This one is more like the Buck 120 in size, so it's bigger. Uses a cheap steel, kind of like the Buck, although it's a carbon steel, which is, of course, why they coat it. I like this knife, but it's mostly useful for making YouTube videos. Now, if I were camping and I could only take 2-bladed instruments, I'd probably take my kukri and a small folding Spyderco. Now, by small, I mean like still in the 3 to 4 inch range. One for firewood and one for food prep. Now, the Falkneven S1. Sorry, that was offensive. I like the handle a little bit better here, and the knife has a better sheath. Also, I kind of like the looks, about 150 bucks though, which is, expensive relatively. Now the equally expensive Hella GT at 150. If you needed to bring a knife you could beat on, I'd pick the Buck. If you use it for normal knife stuff, pick the Hella, I guess. I don't know. It's up to you. SE Laser Strike. You can also beat on this knife. It's about 100 bucks. I would probably call this the knife most likely to survive an idiot in the lineup. Replaceable, comfortable handle scales, thick blade stock, has the word laser in the name so you know it doesn't fuck around. I think we're done. I like the 119 just fine. It's slightly smaller than big ass dimensions. It might be more versatile than a dog's head or a larger 7-inch fixed blade for regular stuff. I know it's no Tom Brown tracker. Where's a recurve and sawback? Plus it needs more than one edge bevel. And as a side note, I went down the Tom Brown tracker rabbit hole. I guess it was a tangent when reading about the hypothetical uses of large fixed blades. Like, what do people use them for other than breaking apart wood? I read about half the tracker book once. I have a short attention span though. But the Tom Brown tracker knife from Tops always struck me as, let's call it busy. I also decided to skim the 22-page instruction manual for the Tops Tom Brown tracker. And it notes that, quote, any misuse of this knife other than to fulfill normal, and this is also in quotes, knife-like function, such as those outlined in the text, will result in voiding the warranty. Huh. Where were we? Oh yeah, the Buck 119. It's a good large fixed blade. Not my favorite, but a good one. It's cheap. If you need something for batoning though, maybe buy a knife with a slightly longer blade that's full tang with replaceable handles. Also, clip points make sense for piercing things, but not batoning because it chews your baton up. So I guess the whole point of the review leaves me with two main questions. First, is 6 inches too big for a hunting knife? If there's a 12-inch buoy out there, that can't be the case. And second, clip points aren't as a useful blade shape when processing firewood or bushcraft, as YouTube now calls it. That's more of a statement, though. I guess I could rephrase it, but I'm just so tired. So tired. However, you probably have so many knives already that you could kill 3, still have another dozen to play survival dress-up Halloween outfit with. Leave a comment, give the video a thumbs up, Patreon, subscribe, whatever the fuck you feel like you need to do. I know cussing isn't my bag, forte, whatever. Thanks for watching.